Hey, Brandon, if you could change people's lives on Ratrace in 2 minutes, what would you say?
Don't do real estate. Put all your money into the stock market. I'm just kidding.
Bitcoin.
I was gonna say.
I'm actually a big believer in whenever something is like at the peak, the highest it's ever been, go all in on that. That's what I believe. So in Bitcoin right now.
FOMO in.
Yeah, go all in. Okay, let me back to. Hold on. Oops. Hold on. Sorry, I'm incapable of using technology. There we go. Okay, now I'm at the beginning. Hi. Okay. Man, if I could give one piece of advice, I'll say this: to lose weight, it requires two things: diet and exercise. We all know that, but to lose weight requires diet and exercise. In other words, it requires a process. It's not about putting a picture on your wall. It's not about telling all your friends and family that you want to lose weight. Like, none of that matters. It's all about whether you're eating less food and working out more. The exact same thing is true for real estate investing. So figure out what your diet and exercise is when it comes to real estate, and then do that every single day. That one thing, like, you can accomplish anything that way. And you can really boil it down to like a series of 5-minute tasks. Unlike working out, which actually takes like 30 minutes or an hour of actual time. Like, everything in real estate is a 5-minute or less task. Everything. Like, there's almost nothing. Maybe driving for dollars is maybe a longer task, but almost everything is a simple task that takes less than 5 minutes. So analyze that deal, send that email, write that, letter, call that person. It's all little like 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute tasks. And there's just 50 of them. So if you get in the practice of every single day, your diet and exercise is saying, what is that 5-minute task I have to do today? That very next thing. And you identify it, and then you do it or put on your calendar to do it. Like, imagine like how quickly you could accomplish anything. It's kind of like reading a book. If you read 10 pages of a book every single day, you'd finish a book a month, maybe 2 books a month if it's a short book. If you read 10 pages every week, it would take you a whole year to finish a book, or 3/4 of a year. So in other words, like, it's consistency and identifying what are those 10 pages I can read today. What is that? How can I carry the ball 3 yards down the field, to use a football analogy? How can I diet and exercise today? If you just do that repeatedly, you can accomplish anything. And so many people, just like when you ask them, like, well, what's the next step on your journey? Like, you're just trying to get from your rat race to financial independence. Like, what is that next thing you got to do? And they're like, well, I got to buy a property. And I'm like, no, what is the next thing you got to do? And they're like, well, get more specific. I got to get an agent. No, get more specific. I got to go to, Facebook and ask my family and friends for an agent recommendation. Now that is a 1-minute task. So in other words, your entire journey to financial independence all comes down to you doing a 1-minute task next. So why aren't you doing it? So go do that. And then you're one step closer to that financial independence. And if you just get into that rhythm, that habit of always saying what is the most important next step, and then execute on it, you could build a nuclear bomb. You could go to Mars. You could, get financial independence. It doesn't matter what it is. Everything in life is a series of 5-minute tasks. So do it. That's all I got.
I love that. Everything, that's the next book. Everything is the next step is a 5-minute. And that's true, because I feel like a lot of times the reason people don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of times the people don't take the next actionable step is because they think it's a very long or drawn out step. And there's just that fear, but it really is just a 5-minute email, or, an email to the banker. Hey, can I get the loan? Or a conversation to Ashley. Hey, can you partner with me on this deal? Or, whatever the case may be. So Ashley, I'm sorry, but you got to follow up that. What do you think of what is a piece of advice that you would give in the next couple of minutes? Because I don't want to take up a lot of you guys' time, but that you think would help everyone get from rat race to financial independence, just like our group here.
Okay, well, I guess one of the things I harp on is how I got started. And I think it's a great way for anyone to get started is to get a job that's part of real estate, that gets you into the real estate network. So that doesn't mean quit your full-time job and start something new. That can definitely be a side hustle or a part-time job. So like a leasing agent is a big one. You can do showings on weekends or nights when the full-time leasing agent doesn't want to do them. You could do a maintenance coordinator. I met a sheriff one time who said that in between his classes when he was in college, he would go and fulfill maintenance requests for an investor. And that's how he learned all about real estate investing, was just connecting with that investor. You'll grow your network because you'll know what vendors they use, the lease documents they use. You'll get to see the apartments in your area. when you do a leasing agent, you'll be able to see what people like about that apartment. So I'm a huge believer in getting paid to actually learn about real estate investing. And I mean, there's so many ways that you can help a real estate investor and be an asset and be a tool to them where you're actually getting paid for that. Like maybe it's even managing their social media, where you're going to be creating the posts for them that explain how to invest in real estate. And you're going to learn through reading those and creating them and actually being the one to write those. So if you can find a way to get paid for your experience, I mean, obviously, being an intern and not getting paid is great too, but why not build some extra cash to invest in real estate too?
Can I piggyback on that real quick?
Of course.
So I don't think I talk about this very often, but I did the exact same thing. I had an investor friend of mine, Kyle, who was like kind of my mentor, all like building my portfolio. He was a pilot who owned 30 or 40 rentals in my area. And so I managed all of his properties for him for like 10 years, my first 10 years, which means I was still doing the Bigger Pockets podcast, and I had released the book on rental property investing and managing, and I was still taking care of all of his properties for $800 a month. It was almost no money compared to what I was making everything else. But it was that I was the entire 10 years. One, I had loyalty to him, so I don't want to leave him yet. But I built my portfolio as I was helping him build his and getting paid. It wasn't a ton of money, but the experience, the network, and the connections that I got, it was like life changing. So yeah. And who cares? It was $800 a month. That was still $800 more than I had before. And I got paid to learn. So yeah, 100%.
That's exactly how mine is too, because the guy that I worked for, it's turned into full time. And then once I started the podcast and doing more real estate investing, I gave his stuff to the property management, but he didn't want any involvement at all. So the property management company reports to me, and then I still manage all of his money. And, I help him with weird things. Like some days I feel like a personal assistant, just doing random things he might want, but it's that loyalty. And just I'm still learning stuff from him. And he pays my health insurance, which is a great asset to me. As,
yep.
Not having that, be able to get that anywhere else, since my husband is self-employed too. But yeah.
Brandon, let me jump in here and ask you a question that I hope benefits everyone in this mastermind. What would you tell people that are maybe scared to take that next step? A lot of people here have real estate, but I would say a majority maybe don't. I would say we're about a 70-30 split. They're looking, or they are pre-approved and ready to make the move, but a lot of the times they're scared to make that next move because whatever, fill in the blank, there's a fear there. There's maybe I don't deserve it. That was my thing. Everyone here knows that I always felt like I didn't deserve the cheese on my burger just because that's the way I grew up. So what would you say to those people that want to get started, but just don't feel like they deserve success or deserve real estate because it's not, they don't see a lot of people like them in the industry, or just have some type of fear of getting started? What would you say to someone?
Yeah, a couple things there. One, fear is oftentimes present because you lack the experience, right? I mean, it's an obvious statement, but in other words, you're afraid to drive a car until you drive a car a bunch of times and you're fine. So the more practice you get, the more reps you get in, the less fear you have. I like to tell people, if you analyzed 100 real estate deals in let's say Clarksville, right? Tennessee. It's not where I'm going to buy, but let's say you're I know you can buy rentals there in Clarksville, Tennessee. You analyzed 100 deals in Clarksville. You went and met with 10 investors who invest there, and you had conversations with them, and you drove every single street in that town, and you knew a dozen agents there, and you even went to visit the title companies that you would be closing with. None of that costs any money that we just talked about. It's all free. If you did all of that, the fear would be about 2% of what it is right now, right? So it doesn't take any effort to do any of that stuff. You're not actually committing anything. There's no risk whatsoever to all of that stuff. So by just taking all the action you can do before making the big step of actually buying something, that can relieve a lot of fear. Secondly, if you're afraid, go partner with somebody. Go get the experience by working with somebody else. Even if you give them 99, I mean, imagine you want to get in, you're just nervous. You don't have any money maybe, or maybe you lack the confidence, or you lack whatever it is. Okay, I'm going to go find a deal for Felipe, right? I'm going to go find the best deal that he says he wants, and I know that he wants it. I'm going to go do all the groundwork. I'm going to make this thing happen. I'm going to bring it to him, and I'm going to ask him to give me 1% of that deal. Instead of 1%, I'm going to give him, or I'm going to ask for 1%. He gets 99%. Who cares? Because the whole point of the first deal is not to get a deal. The point of the first deal is to get knowledge, experience, social capital, motivation, momentum, whatever you want to call it. That's the point of the first deal. So go do a deal with somebody else and just bring them exactly what they want. You take 1% or 0% of it, because it's gonna help you overcome that fear. So yeah, I think that's probably a big piece of it. And then I don't know. Third is just the more like media changes mindset. The more you consume media like this, the more you actually engage in mastermind groups like this, the more you listen to podcasts, the more you read books, the less fear you have. Media changes mindset more than almost anything else. And you have the right mindset going into something, you won't have the fear stopping you.